picked up a few things from watching the Canadian Patriot channel, who does a lot of research, but who I think likes Greek philosophers, and I obviously am not a fan. So I can't recommend that channel from a Christ follower's perspective, but I am going to cover a few things I learned from him. I'm pressed on time, so it's not going to be a deep dive. But first I'm going to share an amazing testimony from an online friend to demonstrate the power of Jesus, which far supersedes the evil deeds of the enemy, which I normally cover on this channel. I don't know if this is what Jesus looked like, but I like the picture. The testimony follows, quote, I was diagnosed in 2001 with Sherman's disease of my spine, commonly caused by an injury in early adolescence. After a few years' rest from my profession, I returned to part-time work and slowly got back to steel fixing full-time. In 2021, the aching was really wearing me down, and I was in the process of getting another specialist opinion for treatment as I was a twisted mess and in constant agony. During a camping trip to the Goldfields, I dug up quite a large clump of caliche full of seashells. This was a remarkable turning point for my mindset. I realized that the Great Flood was an absolute truth, and after returning home in a great agony from sleeping rough and stressing my spine too much, I literally called out loud to Jesus. I asked that if he was real, could he please heal my pain, and I would praise his name every day for the rest of my life. I was in tears and humbled to begging and pleading. A few days later, 3 to be exact, I noticed that I got out of bed and was doing normal activities without pain and standing straight. I was stunned and very humbled. Then the specialist surgeon had organized for me to have new MRI scans, and when I met with him a few weeks later, I was even more shocked, as was he, that there was no visible signs of deformity in my spine on the MRI scans. Many other wonderful things have happened before and since, and now I know who to thank for my protection and prosperity. Thanks to our beloved Lord Jesus, Emmanuel is most definitely with us. So amen to that. Now back to busting the enemy. The first takeaway from the Canadian Patriot channel has to do with the Rosicrucian symbol of the pelican feeding her young, her blood. In the Eggers movie, The Witch, a baby is taken from the family by a witch in the woods who murders the baby and then rubs its remains all over herself, which causes her to transform from an old ugly witch into a beautiful young witch. The transformation is an important detail because this pelican is also symbolic in the occult of transformation. The baby's mother in the movie goes crazy. In one scene, she wakes up from sleep, or is summoned, I think, by Black Phillip, the goat, cast as the devil, because in the scene, that devil is talking to her. So she sits in a chair with what she's been glamorized to believe is her dead baby, but it's a crow. So she starts breastfeeding the crow, which pecks at her breast, and then she starts to bleed as she laughs hysterically. Crows are linked with occult practices and seen as messengers between the spiritual and physical realms, linked to death and the underworld. I will play the scene now. Sorry, this is going to be disturbing. That's not her baby. The baby is actually dead by this time.
The angels.
Mother, we have longed to see you so.
Is that today? I must wake thy father. He will be so glad.
No. Let him sleep.
So these are other twins, and they're in the barn, locked in there with Black Phillip, the goat. And I think that's a crow that has landed on the roof.
We would see you oft, Mother. Would that please you? I have brought a book for you, Mother. Will you look at it with me?
One moment now.
The boy that she's talking to is also dead at this time, killed by the witch. But he comes back as a demon because he got possessed or something when the witch killed him.
Flora? Flora?
And this is the old witch. So that's disgusting. Okay, sorry. All right. So this was a very disturbing scene in the movie, and I didn't understand it until I realized that it is 100% Rosicrucian, because the Rosicrucian mother pelican who pecks at herself and makes herself bleed to feed her babies. This is one proof that Rosicrucians are a secret society over media, specifically movies. Gary Wayne has expressed this in his books and on interviews. Disney was a Rosicrucian and a Freemason. That actress is Kate Dickie. She's Scottish, trained at the Royal Scottish Academy. She was also cast in Game of Thrones, Prometheus, The Green Knight, The Northman, Under Gods, all occult movies. So this article talks about the pelican holding a central symbolic place in Rosicrucian traditions and Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Appearing in the 18th degree of the Knight Rose Cross, feeding 7 young aligned with the sevenfold schema of classical cosmology. It says it's one of the most powerful and overlooked alchemical symbols of inner transformation through initiation, self-sacrifice, and soul metabolism in the higher work. It appears as a mother who revives her dead young after 3 days, piercing her own breast to breathe life into death with the resulting blood, which is exactly what the scene from the movie The Witch portrays. This article also talks about it being an alchemical symbol in cathedrals, abbeys, and manuscripts. It served as an esoteric sigil for those who could read the language of the mysteries. These were the schools of light, referring to cathedrals and abbeys. The second takeaway from the Canadian Patriot channel is the Black Plague, which he indicated was perhaps something that was released as germ warfare. He mentioned the official story was that the plague was caused by fleas that lived on rats, and I had heard that before. The official story is the Black Death was a plague pandemic that occurred in Europe from 1346 to 1353, one of the most fatal pandemics in history, leading to the death of up to 50 million people, between 30 and 60% of the European population, and approximately 33% of the Middle Eastern population. It says the disease was caused by the bacteria Yersinia pestis, which is primarily spread by flea bites, although it may also spread through contact with infected tissues or fluids, and in pneumonia cases through respiratory droplets. I hadn't made the connection to William Blake's painting The Ghost of a Flea until now. Blake was in the club, and I've covered him a lot before, so I'm just going to show this painting and describe what was written about it, and you guys can draw your own conclusions. Notice the stars in the background. The Ghost of a Flea is a miniature painting held in the Tate Gallery of London, completed by William Blake between 1819 and 1820. It's part of a series depicting visionary heads, and visionary heads are drawings of heads seen in a vision. It was commissioned by the watercolorist and astrologist John Varley, a student of astrology and zodiacal physiognomy. Zodiacal physiognomy is the practice of linking a person's zodiac sign and planetary positions to their facial features and temperament. The idea has ancient and medieval origins. Ptolemy described planetary influences on human form. So, human form or fallen angel form or demon form. So, this guy Varley had a strong belief in the existence of spirits, but was frustrated by his inability to see them. Thus, he was drawn to Blake, who claimed to have seen visions daily since a small child. As a small child, he had seen a tree filled with angels, bright angelic wings bespangling every bough like stars. The two would often gather late at night in Varley's house and played a game in which Varley would attempt to summon the spirit of a historical or mythological person. A game? On the appearance of the spirit, Blake would then attempt to sketch their likeness. According to Varley, the imagery of a flea came to Blake during an 1819 seance. Blake often said that he was joined by invisible sitters as he drew them, including, he claimed, a number of angels, Voltaire, Moses, and the flea, who told him that fleas were inhabited by the souls of such men as were by nature bloodthirsty to excess. So this is a flea that's trying to lick blood out of a bowl. One of Blake's obituaries stated that, quote, "The flea communicated to Mr. Blake what happened, as related to himself, at the creation." So the flea says, "It was first intended," said the flea, "to make me as big as a bullock. But then, when it was considered from my construction, so armed, and so powerful withal, that in proportion to my bulk, mischievous as I now am, that I should have been a too mighty destroyer, so it was determined to make me no bigger than I am." Very strange. The third takeaway is regarding Zionism. The Canadian Patriot Channel covered John Nelson Darby as one of the most influential people to the Zionist movement. John Nelson Darby is considered the father of modern dispensationalism and futurism by the wide circulation of the Schofield Reference Bible. So Darby is in the club and fits our patterns. He was born in Westminster, London, educated at Westminster School and Trinity College, Dublin, and already covered what that Trinity represents, which is Minerva, Athena. He was ordained an Anglican priest, which means he was a Druid, and his family, the Darbys, were an Anglo-Irish landowning family seated at Leap Castle in Ireland, which has been around since 1250 AD. He was a nephew of Admiral Henry d'Estaing Darby, who served with Lord Nelson at the Battle of the Nile, and that's how he got his middle name. He was an influential figure among the original Plymouth Brethren, and the Plymouth Brethren originated out of the Anglican Druidic Church. Darby was the founder of the Exclusive Brethren, which was an offshoot cult of the Plymouth Brethren. I'm going to go over some notable Exclusive Brethren members now. Number 1, Aleister Crowley, who this says rejected his early Plymouth Brethren upbringing to become an occultist. Anthony Crossland, Foreign Secretary in Britain's Labour government. Roger Paynes, who killed his wife and 3 children before committing suicide. Patricia Beer, a bard and Oxford graduate. Peter Cause, a British philosopher affiliated with Yale. John George Hay, a serial murderer. Douglas Harding, who rejected his Brethren upbringing and became an independent spiritual teacher. David Hendricks, convicted of killing his wife and children, but acquitted in a retrial. Niger Thomas, who wrote Behind Closed Doors about her childhood abuse in the Exclusive Brethren. George Wigram, who wrote A Greek and English Concordance to the New Testament and the Englishman's Hebrew and Chaldee Concordance of the Old Testament. Told you the Druids were Chaldeans. Also influential to the Zionist movement was Lord Ashley, 7th Earl of Shaftesbury, who is Order of the Garter, so a witch. Also British Tory politician and social reformer. Son of the 6th Earl of Shaftesbury and Lady Anne Spencer, daughter of 4th Duke of Marlborough. His cousin was George Spencer Churchill, 5th Duke of Marlborough, who was a member of the ancient Order of Druids along with Sir Winston Churchill. Lord Ashley was a leading figure in the Anglican Druidic Church. This is his statue at Westminster Abbey, the Anglican Druidic Church. Lord Ashley was educated at Christ Church, Oxford, where he majored in classics. And classics is the study of ancient Greek and Roman paganism. It says Ashley's early family life was loveless, a circumstance common among British upper classes. He saw little of his parents and referred to his mother as a devil. He described his primary education at Manor House as a disgusting range of horrors, a place that was bad, wicked, filthy, and the treatment was starvation and cruelty. Then, supposedly, because of becoming a Christian, he made all these social reforms and did philanthropic things. But if that was true, then he would not have been made Order of the Garter. Thanks for listening.